All right, listen up. I'm not here to sugarcoat anything. We're diving straight into something that so many of us deal with, but no one really talks about openly. Narcissists. You know the type. They gaslight you, drain your energy, and somehow make everything about them, even when it's clearly not. But guess what? Today, I'm flipping the script because you're not powerless, not anymore. In the next few minutes, I'm going to give you 6 powerful tools. Yes, 6 things that narcissists absolutely hate. These are the things that strip their control, disrupt their game, and put the power back where it belongs, with you. You ready to stop feeling like a victim? Good. Let's get into it. Narcissists thrive on attention. It doesn't matter if it's good attention, bad attention, admiration, outrage, or even confusion. They just need to be in the spotlight. Attention is their fuel. When you give them your time, your emotional reactions, or even your energy trying to understand them, you're feeding the very thing that keeps them coming back for more. And the most powerful thing you can do, the one thing that drives them absolutely mad, is to cut that supply. Stop giving them what they want. Ignoring a narcissist isn't just about walking away physically. It's about removing the emotional reward. It means not reacting to their provocations. It means refusing to engage in the drama they try to pull you into. You're not rolling your eyes. You're not sighing. You're not giving them that gotcha moment. You go silent, calm, unshakable. Because when you do that, you're not just ignoring them, you're telling them without a single word that they no longer have power over you. And for a narcissist, that's intolerable. They will try harder when you start doing this. Make no mistake. They'll poke, they'll prod, they'll suddenly become charming or blow up your phone or act like a victim, anything to reel you back in because they can't stand the idea that you've disconnected. But you've got to hold the line. The less you respond, the more unimportant they start to feel. And that's the one feeling they run from like fire. What's wild is that people often underestimate how effective this is. They think, but if I ignore them, aren't they just going to come at me harder? Yes, at first. But narcissists are wired to seek validation. If they can't get it from you, they'll go looking somewhere else. Ignoring isn't passive, it's power. It tells them they no longer get access to your energy, your peace, your life. And that silence, it's louder than any words you could throw at them. Narcissists despise boundaries because boundaries tell them one thing they can't stand to hear: no. And not just no to a request, but no to control, no to manipulation, and no to access to your time, energy, and emotions. When you set clear, firm boundaries, you're sending a message that you're not someone who can be easily pushed, guilt-tripped, or controlled. That rattles a narcissist to their core because their entire sense of power relies on your compliance. But here's the key. Setting the boundary is only half the battle. Enforcing it is where the real shift happens. Narcissists will test you. They'll push. They'll ignore the line you've drawn and act like they didn't hear you. They might even get angry or play the victim to make you feel guilty. This is their usual pattern. It's predictable, and it's exactly why so many people feel trapped. Because enforcing a boundary can feel uncomfortable, especially when you're used to walking on eggshells. That's why consistency is your best weapon. You don't explain, you don't justify, you don't argue. You state your boundary, you hold it, and when it's crossed, you act calmly, confidently, without drama. Whether that means ending a conversation, leaving the room, or cutting off a call, your follow-through shows them that your limits are real, and real limits threaten their illusion of control. What most people don't realize is that narcissists often go after people who lack boundaries because they're easier to manipulate. So when you start setting them, you change the dynamic. You stop being a source of easy supply. You disrupt their power structure. You force them to either adapt, which most won't, or move on to someone else they can more easily control. Either way, you win. Boundaries are not walls, they are filters. You're not shutting yourself off from the world. You're simply choosing what you will and won't allow in your space. And narcissists hate that because once you start enforcing boundaries, you're no longer in their game. You're playing your own. Narcissists feed off emotional reactions. They provoke, manipulate, and twist situations specifically to get a rise out of you. Whether it's anger, frustration, tears, or even desperation, any emotional response gives them a sense of control. It reassures them that they're important, that they can affect you, that they have a grip on your mental and emotional state. So the most effective and infuriating thing you can do in response is to stay emotionally neutral. That means no drama, no raised voice, no visible frustration. Just calm, measured responses, or none at all. When you stop reacting emotionally, you take away their reward. It's like flipping a switch. They'll say something inflammatory or passive-aggressive and expect the usual reaction, but instead, you stay grounded. You don't explain yourself over and over. You don't try to make them understand. You stay calm and detached, like they have no power to touch your inner peace. And that drives them absolutely mad, because it undermines their need to feel significant and in control. Of course, staying emotionally neutral doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you choose when, where, and how you express those feelings. It's about taking control of your own nervous system instead of letting them hijack it. Narcissists want you dysregulated. They want you second-guessing yourself, caught in a loop of defending, reacting, and chasing validation. But when you stay cool, emotionally still, they lose that ability to rattle you. At first, they may escalate. They'll try harder to poke at your weak spots. They might gaslight you even more or flip between rage and charm. This is a test. They're trying to see if your calm is real or if it's just a new tactic they can crack. But if you stay steady, if you breathe and hold your ground, they start to lose their grip. They don't know what to do. With someone they can't manipulate emotionally, you take back your power the moment you stop handing them your reactions. It's not about being cold or robotic. It's about owning your state of mind. It's about knowing that you don't owe them your energy just because they demand it. Emotional neutrality sends a message louder than any confrontation ever could. You no longer control how I feel, and that terrifies you. Narcissists operate in a world of distortion. They bend facts, rewrite history, and twist the truth to suit their narrative. Why? Because if you stay confused, you're easier to control. If you doubt your memory, your perception, or your instincts, they win. That's why one of the most powerful things you can do, the thing they hate, is to calmly and clearly call out the facts. Not emotionally, not in a fight, just truth, spoken plainly and confidently, like a mirror they can't escape. When you state facts instead of getting pulled into their chaos, you disrupt their control. You're not debating, you're not explaining, you're simply pointing to what's real. You said X yesterday, and now you're saying Y. This behavior has happened before. That's not what actually happened. You're not trying to change their mind. You're anchoring yourself in reality, and that threatens them because they rely on your confusion to maintain their version of events. It's important not to fall into the trap of over-explaining or defending yourself. That's what they want. Because the longer they keep you explaining, the more control they have. Instead, keep it simple, direct, factual. Let them squirm under the weight of their own contradictions. You're not accusing, you're observing. And narcissists hate being observed for who they really are. They hate clarity. They hate accountability. They hate when you hold up a mirror and don't back down. This approach also protects your own sanity. When you start consistently grounding yourself in facts, writing things down, remembering what was said, trusting your gut, you start to see through the manipulation. You stop second-guessing yourself. You begin to reclaim the clarity they tried to steal from you. And nothing unsettles a narcissist more than someone who no longer buys into their version of the truth. Calling out facts doesn't mean you'll get a calm, rational response. Often it's the opposite. They might explode or shift into victim mode. That's because facts threaten their fragile self-perception. But you don't need them to accept the truth. You just need to stand in it. Because when you do, you're no longer playing their game. You're setting the rules based on reality, not illusion. And that's their worst nightmare. Nothing unsettles a narcissist more than realizing you no longer need them, that you're not dependent on their approval, attention, or validation, that you've outgrown their manipulation, their mind games, their toxic charm. See, narcissists thrive when you stay stuck in their orbit, when you're constantly chasing their affection or trying to fix the relationship. But once you start growing emotionally and mentally, and especially when you detach, they feel the shift and they hate it. Outgrowing a narcissist doesn't always mean going no contact overnight. Sometimes it starts with subtle changes. You're no longer reactive. You stop justifying yourself. You see through their tactics. You stop playing small to make them feel big. You start making choices that prioritize your peace over their approval. And they notice. They might not say it out loud, but they feel the loss of control. They feel the power dynamic shifting, that illusion they were indispensable in your life starts to crack. When you grow, you become harder to manipulate. You begin to recognize gaslighting for what it is. You stop falling for guilt trips or love bombing. You see the cycles and patterns clearly, and that awareness alone weakens their grip. They can't stand that because for them, control equals relevance. And once you evolve beyond their reach, their influence begins to fade. Because their supposed lack of commitment, you become someone they can no longer manage, and they panic. That's when they might lash out or suddenly try to reel you back in with charm, promises, or even threats. But here's the thing. They can't truly stop your growth. They can only distract you from it as long as you let them. When you outgrow a narcissist, you're stepping into a version of yourself that is stronger, clearer, and far less available to be emotionally hijacked. Your boundaries get firmer. Your self-worth starts coming from within. And eventually you reach a point where their opinions, reactions, or manipulation attempts don't even register the way they used to. It's not about revenge or playing games. It's about stepping into your own life fully without asking for their permission. It's about reclaiming your space, your voice, your peace. And that more than anything makes a narcissist miserable because they can't follow you into the life you're building without them. There's nothing more infuriating to a narcissist than watching you thrive without them. Your happiness, confidence, and success, especially when they're not the center of it, feels like a direct attack on their ego. That's because narcissists are obsessed with control. They want to be the reason you feel good or bad, the one who lifts you up or tears you down. So when you break free and start succeeding on your own terms, in your own way, they lose the one thing they crave most: relevance. Thriving without them doesn't always mean big, flashy achievements. Sometimes it's quiet but powerful. It's waking up without anxiety. It's finding peace in your own company. It's laughing again, trusting yourself, making decisions without second guessing, and finally feeling free from their emotional leash. These things seem small on the outside, but to a narcissist, they are unbearable signs that they no longer have access to your life, your emotions, or your sense of self. This kind of thriving is deeply personal. It's not about proving them wrong. It's about proving to yourself that you are always capable of healing, capable of growing, capable of living fully without the constant chaos they brought into your world. And when you show up in your life with strength, clarity, and joy, you're doing something they can't stand. You're becoming untouchable, not because you're being cold, but because you've built something real inside yourself that no narcissist can manipulate. They might try to diminish your success, mock your progress, or question your happiness. That's what they do. Tear down what they can't control. But the more you thrive, the less their words matter. Eventually you stop responding altogether, not out of spite, but because you're busy building something better. You've moved on. And they hate that because they can't follow you into a space that requires emotional depth, honesty, and self-awareness. Living well is your quiet revolution. It's the ultimate boundary, the ultimate revenge, and the ultimate freedom. It's proof that you no longer need their validation, their chaos, or their approval. And that more than anything makes a narcissist miserable because your joy, your peace, and your success remind them that they no longer have power over you.